Well, I am really happy that we get this chance to speak, Jonah, because the last years, I would say, I've been in my own little world thinking a lot about Rudolf Steiner and C.G. Jung, and I've been longing for meeting a person that I could have a conversation with about Steiner. From what I know, they did never have contact. Maybe exploring this relationship that did not happen.
Yeah, I mean, I find it fascinating too. I know Rudolf Steiner wrote a bit about Jung, but it was more, in a way, I want to say it's a bit superficial what Rudolf Steiner said about Jung, in the sense of just saying that psychoanalysis only goes so far as psychological forces and doesn't actually start to enter into the spiritual world that is made up of spiritual beings, so to speak. And yet, and that's what you'll generally hear from anthroposophists too, who are kind of skeptical of Jungian psychoanalysis. But I think it's a bit oftentimes misguided, because I think Jung was also discovering in his work with the archetypes and in his experiences, even though he wrestled with them, I think he's discovering actual beings. And there's, I think, a lot, especially in his experience of Christ. That is a definite connection with Rudolf Steiner. They both, in a way, and struggled with, in a way, and worked with all their lives after they had these Christ experiences. And Carl Jung, as Steiner, would put Christ at the center of the kind of archetypal self, even though they worked with and struggled in a different way, I would say. Another real connection between the two is their shadow work, if you will. Jung called it more the shadow. Rudolf Steiner gives the same archetype, the same dynamic, a different name. He calls it the double, or the doppelganger.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but it's the same dynamic. It's something that the shadow is parts of your personality, parts of your being that are undigested, unintegrated into your psyche. And they can be met and encountered and worked with almost like a friend. That's how Rudolf Steiner would describe it. He gives it the name, various names, but like the lower guardian of the threshold. And this is your shadow being that Jung also describes, that is not there just to punish you or be a pain in your behind, but to teach you and help you grow and mature as you integrate your shadow being into your psyche. That's an incredible actual connection between the two.
So I was curious to get to understand better Steiner's view on the self and how Christ relates to the self.
Rudolf Steiner describes a true self. So there's the lower self, the higher self, and the true self. And the true self is actually not in us per se. It rays into us, but it's deeply unconscious. And this true self is actually contained in this being called Christ Jesus. This archetypal human, that's another name Rudolf Steiner gives Christ. He gives him lots of names. The true human, the great I am, the universal human.
You mentioned the unconscious. I mean, the unconscious was this concept that it wasn't developed by Jung and others used it, but I was wondering how and if Steiner used that concept.
I mean, I would say, again, sometimes labels are difficult. I don't think Steiner used unconscious, the actual label, maybe because he was trying to distinguish himself from the burgeoning psychoanalysis. I don't know. But he describes things like in the depths of soul. Or he describes the soul as being so deep that there are all these unconscious elements in it. including, good spiritual beings, for example, good archetypes.